So you think you can beat me by outlawing my thoughts with your rogue politicians and the judges you bought? So you think you can mold me like I'm made out of clay? Oh, you want me to answer? Just got this to say. Take a look into this warrior's eyes. Tell me what you see. Take a look into this warrior's eyes. Oh, that still beats free.
I'm Paul Fromm. I'm the Midnight Man with Stormfront Radio. Catch me every night at www.stormfront.org for my nightly program, For Our People. And that's news and views of interest to the European founding settler people of this continent. Well, tonight I'd like to talk to you about Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang is a Chinese person in Peking who recently went to the Globe and Mail, and this is after he'd gone to the Canadian government, the immigration representatives at the Canadian Embassy in Peking, to complain about an incident that had happened to him. It seems that several years ago he was approached by his boss and told to get over to the doctors, and when he got there he was given a chest examination, a lung examination for tuberculosis. Well, this rather surprised Mr. Wang because he wasn't aware there was anything wrong with him, and it turned out there was nothing wrong with him. He'd already had a perfectly good clean bill of health. What was all this about? Eventually his boss told him, well, actually the x-rays were not for Mr. Wang, they were for the boss to pass on to a friend who was going to immigrate to Canada. And he was apparently a reasonably high-powered professor, and he was going to come with his whole family to Canada, but apparently he'd had tuberculosis in the past, and that could be a health impediment to come to Canada. So, because of corrupt doctors, he was simply going to substitute Mr. Wang's clean chest x-ray for his own. Well, Mr. Wang went to the Canadian Embassy and to the Immigration Department and told them about this, and they didn't seem all that interested. And he came back sometime later, and they didn't seem all that interested, and they gave what is the standard dodge of government in Canada. Can't say anything, right to privacy. Well, I know you and I probably appreciate a certain degree of right to privacy. I wouldn't want my medical records on the front page of the Globe and Mail, and intimate details of my tax returns. But, you know, when people on our side of the fence get charged with an offense, we're in the papers, and yet we know the police are looking for various suspects in other crimes and can't give any description of them. You know, right to privacy. Well, the guy's a criminal, for heaven's sakes. Anyway, this is how Mr. Wang was fobbed off. He was told, can't say anything about this right to privacy. Well, you'd think they would have welcomed Mr. Wang with open arms. Here's a Chinese citizen trying to assist Canada not to end up with sick people, exposing a fraud. Well, they weren't interested. Well, Mr. Wang went a little further, and he was able to get statements from two other Chinese doctors confirming that this type of thing happened regularly. In other words, there's a market for phony health checkups and phony x-rays and documentation. The Canadian authorities are being scammed shamelessly. And incidentally, for the past 5 years, China has been the largest source of immigration and, in some cases, refugees to Canada each year. So you'd think that this would be a serious matter. Are our officials really there to stand on guard for us? I don't know. Doesn't look like it, does it? You know, and tuberculosis is no laughing matter. Tuberculosis was a huge killer in the 19th century and into the 20th century. It used to be called consumption. It was finally conquered in Canada shortly after the Second World War, with better health care, with better nutrition, and of course with modern medicine. Except on some Indian reservations, tuberculosis had by the 1970s and 80s and 90s become a thing of the past. Well, thanks to poorly screened immigration, it's back with a vengeance. And also, another form of tuberculosis, multi-drug resistant TB. And people with multi-drug resistant TB are almost incurable. Just to stabilize them can cost tens of thousands of dollars a year. Should we be bringing people like this into Canada? No way. No way on two counts. First of all, because they may become contagious and infect others. And there are now a fair number of tuberculosis cases in major Canadian cities, and it corresponds to cities that have large immigrant populations. Poorly screened immigration is not only a health threat to Canadians, it's also a huge cost, because we have to take care of these people through our Medicare system, and we have to take care of the people that they might infect. Now, we all know in major Canadian cities how stressed our Medicare system is. Wealthy people for elective surgery are often going to the United States, or going to places like India, or going to Costa Rica. A good friend of mine, a good supporter of our cause in Vancouver, is badly crippled. He needs a hip replacement. Canadian doctors say it's going to take months, and they're a bit dicey about doing it because of his age. He may end up having to go to Costa Rica, where he'll pay a third of what he would of the cost here in Canada. Why should Canadians have to consider elective surgery abroad for a system that they, if they're taxpayers, and of course if you're a Canadian citizen, you almost certainly are, you've paid for all your working life through your taxes, through the GST. You pay almost every time you buy a product or receive a service. We've paid for this system. Why should we not be able to take advantage of it? Because very often this system is so overburdened by newcomers who have not been properly screened. Just think for a moment about refugees. Refugees are not screened for health. Many of these people have never knocked on the door of a doctor. That person is 40 or 45 or 50. That person may well already need serious medical care, a heart transplant, or serious heart surgery, or a liver transplant. And as for dental care, many of these people are going to be able to put a dentist's kids through college. If you haven't been to a dentist in your entire life, you may have a mouthful of rotting teeth and gum problems and gum diseases that will be a periodontist's dream. But, of course, if you're a refugee, guess who pays for it? You don't. We do. We, the Canadian taxpayer. You know, if you're a poor Canadian, if you're a working Canadian who's poor, you've got a minimum wage job or $1 above the minimum wage job, you know, unless you're very, very lucky, you don't have dental care. You don't have a dental plan. And so if you have dental problems or dental needs, you have to scrounge around for the money, or, as many people do, they do without. There's something fundamentally unfair about this, which brings me back to Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang did try to do the right thing. He approached the Canadian authorities, and all he got was indifference. But he was a sufficiently ambitious person that he approached the Globe and Mail, and now that story's public. I think it would be a good idea for you to write or call your member of Parliament and demand an investigation as to why our authorities are so lax in accepting people and fraudulent documents. I'm Paul Fromm. I'm the Midnight Man with Stormfront Radio. Catch me every night at midnight Eastern Time at www.stormfront.org with my nightly program For Our People.